Hi everyone, and welcome, and thank you for joining us for this awesome Facebook Live event. My name is Stephanie Paddock, and I work with the Team Fox staff here at the Michael J. Fox Foundation. I'm so excited to introduce two very special warriors that we have with us today. First, Akbar Gbajabiamila, I got it right, co-host of NBC's Emmy-nominated American Ninja Warrior. And second, our very own Team Fox warrior, Jimmy Choi. I was very honored to meet Jimmy back in 2012 when he first signed up for his very first marathon to run with Team Fox. And since then, get this, he's run 13 marathons, 90 half marathons, and one full 50-mile ultra marathon. It's incredible, yeah. On top of that, he's been training obviously for American Ninja Warrior, and you can check out a clip from his recent run now.
For this, the next big test, the hang glider.
Matt, this may be difficult for him to grip. You can see the tremors in those hands.
Here he goes.
Come on, Jimmy Choi. Woo, nice grab.
Well, he's a very fit 5 feet 8, 165 pounds, and what an accomplishment if he can make it through this obstacle as well.
Come on, Jimmy, hold on.
And he's done it! Jimmy Choi defying.
Awesome. Well, we know that we've got some questions that have already been submitted, and we ask you, our Facebook community, to submit some more throughout the piece, and we'll try to get to as many of them as we can. But for now, Akbar, take it away and do what you do best.
Well, let me say, first off, thank you guys for having me here. This is pretty impressive to be here at Team Fox, and to have my man here, Jimmy Choi. First off, I got to ask you, how do you do all of this? I mean, you talk about Ninja Warrior. We hear about the marathons, 90 half marathons. I guess, how are your joints feeling? Because you do run that on cement. That's got to hurt, right?
So, yes, it
does hurt.
The running does hurt, I'm not going to lie.
Okay, all right.
But, 6 years ago when I started running, I noticed that I do feel a lot better after all the running. And I started slow, 1 mile, 2 mile, 3 miles, and just build from there. And it just made me feel good. Initially, it's all about self-preservation. So I started running. And then the more I ran, the better I felt. And then eventually I was like, if I'm going to be doing all this running, why not join Team Fox and do it for something good? But I have to admit, after 6 years of 5.5, 6 years of running, it's starting to take its toll. So that's why I find things like obstacle course training, American Ninja Warriors, of course, cycling, and other activities that I can start doing. Maybe not less taxing on the joints, but just different.
Right, it's a different challenge.
Yes.
You talk about challenges, and it's interesting, just going back, before getting into American Ninja Warrior, 27 years old, 14 years ago, you were diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, and I think your wife Cheryl described that as the dark years for you. Why was that dark for you?
So, it's dark because we didn't study the disease. We didn't want to acknowledge it. We ignored it. And the disease just kept progressing and building, and we kept ignoring it. And it became more and more of an elephant in the room, so to speak, whenever we have family gatherings or getting together with friends. People will always look at you, and you can tell they want to say something, but not really. And then they'll end up asking, oh, how you doing? And then you do the head nod, everything's good. Yeah. And nobody talks about it. And eventually that builds inside, and then at home, we don't talk about it, and it becomes frustration. And then, unfortunately, frustration, at some point, you're going to lash out.
Yeah.
And, I'm not proud of it, but I was lashing out against my kids when Karina was born, my youngest, for no reason. And as I'm yelling at her, a 1-year-old, I'm yelling at her, and I'm thinking to myself, there's no point for me to yell. I shouldn't be yelling. But it's moments like that I couldn't control.
Yeah. And I get that. For me, my connection with the Parkinson's disease is that my father was diagnosed around the same time Michael J. Fox was diagnosed in 1998, and I was just a year removed from high school, just graduated from high school. And it was, I remember it being on the other end of it, just thinking, here my dad is. I mean, if you've ever seen the movie Coming to America, yes. James Earl Jones has this iconic African accent. That's my dad. He's 6'3", 300 pounds, has a deep voice, and just be like this, what are you doing? And he'd be like, I mean, just his voice would scare you. And then all of a sudden, you know, the tremors came in, you know, we just thought, oh, you know, what is this? You know, it was confusing. And I just knew that during the process, it took me a long time to accept as a son, because I saw my dad as this, you know, and I still do, as this strong figure, but I was like, he can't possibly get Parkinson's. But before it was Parkinson's, and you talked about the knowledge, it was diagnosed as a stroke. And so, you know, he just, oh, well, you know, I'm fine, we'll kind of work through it. And it just started getting worse. And, you know, I think for some, especially my dad, just not wanting to go to the doctors. And I remember it was my mom's friend who says, no, you're stopping what you're gonna do and you're gonna go. And I remember one of the biggest things was I had a school, something for school. I was at San Diego State, and he had to write a check. And I mean, it gets into it because he couldn't write. He says, here, you write it. And it was the first time I was like, oh, like, what's going on? And then that's when we learned about the Parkinson's diagnosis, and that was difficult. It was and I think it was frustrating for him. He wasn't the same, because it's like my body's changing, and I'm not quite sure why. Yeah.
It's hard because you can try to explain it away.
Yeah.
You know, I was an active guy. I was 27 years old. I was active. I played a lot of golf. And I'd say, you know what, I'm stiff. Yeah, that's because I played 2 rounds of golf yesterday. You know, tremors, well, stress at work. Anything that came up could be explained away with everyday life.
Yeah.
And that's how you go on. Until one day, you know, someone tells you, a medical professional tells me, you need to get yourself looked at.
Yeah.
That's when I finally went to the doctor. And even then, I was in complete denial and didn't want to tell. It was, first diagnosis came in, I said, you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right? I'm going to find a smarter doctor.
Yeah, I got this.
Yeah, I got this.
this.
Yeah. So remember, this is pre-Google days, right?
Okay.
So I like-hosted, okay, or Ask Jeeves.
Like-hosted, Ask Jeeves, I remember that. Yeah, that's right. He was in that funky cheap tuxedo, huh?
Yes, yeah, I asked Jeeves,
yeah.
and you know, try to self-diagnose, because I'm smarter than every doctor out there, right? But second confirmation came in, you don't know what you're talking about, I'll go find another one. And it was the third one that finally says, yeah, maybe you guys do know what you're talking about. But, you know, I didn't tell my wife, not for a couple months.
Wow.
So and that denial just sort of got deeper and deeper and deeper. I would say there's never officially diagnosed as depression, but I definitely know, and my wife would tell you that there was some of that.
Because it's got to be frustrating, you know, for those obviously who may not have someone connected to Parkinson's, that your body essentially is starting to betray you, especially if you're not educated about the process. Your body is essentially betraying you. Like, hold on, this doesn't work the same way, and I'm frustrated with it. What was the turning point? Karina had a big part of being a part of this turning point for you, getting out of the dark ages and getting you motivated. Tell me that moment that you shared with the world.
It was actually Mason, my son Mason.
Oh, it was Mason,
yeah,
okay.
Karina helped me into Ninja Warrior, which we'll talk about.
Okay.
But it was actually, when Mason was born, Karina was 2, Mason was, Karina was almost 3, Mason was just about 1 year old. I was carrying him down the stairs, and 2 of us fell. And there was quite a lot of steps to go down. And that moment right there, my body was bruised. I kept Mason above me for most of the fall, so he was okay, thank goodness. But mentally, it destroyed me. You know, I couldn't even hold Mason walking down the stairs. I couldn't care for my own child. What kind of father could I be?
Wow.
So I had to do something. And at that moment, I was laying on the floor. Cheryl came by, picked up, you know, Mason, and then she was helping me up. I decided that I needed to do something. And the first thing I did was to educate myself, you know, and I encouraged her, and of course she was all, at that point, it was all about getting information. learning about the disease. What are we dealing with?
So you got the information, you started to understand about Parkinson's. Since we're not in the Ask G's and Lighthouse and whatever other era, we're in the Google. So for those people who Google and then all of a sudden they'll get a WebMD thing about what Parkinson's is. In your words, what are some of the stuff that you've experienced, some of the symptoms that you've experienced, like people who don't really understand how Parkinson's can affect you? You and I talked about it. My dad doesn't have the ability to smell anymore. So my dad, loves cooking his traditional Nigerian food. And there was a point where, it's like, Dad's food doesn't taste good anymore because they're burnt. Because Dad just couldn't smell anymore. So we got him out of the kitchen because he couldn't. And taste, what are some other things?
So what you say are early signs. And initially, my smelling was going away, but I didn't attribute it. I didn't, no idea.
How do you know that? I mean, is this like, so if somebody's got BO, can you you don't smell
I
BO?
run a lot of marathons and I smell nothing. Thank you.
Nothing. So that's okay. That's a good thing, I guess. Yeah, right.
That is a good thing.
Yeah.
However, other people smell me, so that's.
What are you smelling? I smell fine, right?
Yeah, exactly. But it's and you mentioned food, right? So my family were in the restaurant business for quite a while, and I like to say that I'm a pretty good cook myself, but I do realize that in my own cooking things are changing, and a lot of times I always ask my wife, is it too salty, is it too spicy, because I can't necessarily detect all those notes for myself.
So pause. So what about when it comes to like health issues, like maintaining just to make sure your blood pressure isn't up from eating, high levels of sodium? Do you have to, are you a stickler in making sure that you pay attention to the labels so you're not consuming maybe more sugar or more, sodium than you should be? Or are you just like, whatever?
I just went whatever.
Oh boy,
And
that's what happens when you're a ninja, when you can just eat whatever, right?
But in the early years, so the first 8 years, it's all about whatever. It's completely ignoring, and I ballooned. I mean, I gained weight because I was less active. I got up to 240 pounds. I walked with a cane, and then at that moment, I call it the rock bottom moment with Mason. When I started to turn things around, then I started to look, to try to be more mindful about what I'm putting in my body, and that has really helped.
Wow, 90 half marathons, a whole bunch of full marathons, Ninja Warrior. For those of you guys who don't I have the unique honor to be able to call a lot of these ninjas runs, and we have fun doing it. And obviously, Jimmy really spoke to me because, of his Parkinson's disease, and I know what it's like because of my father. And, I'm going through his bio, I watch his submission video, so I'm anticipating this run. And he gets up to the platform and he's starting to tremor. And to me, there's no bigger sign. This is in Kansas City, if you guys didn't get a chance to see it. And here he is, he's tremoring, and he's not ashamed of it. He's not ashamed of it, he's tremoring. He says, I'm still a Ninja Warrior. He goes out there and he starts to hit the course. And I was just blown away by the mental and physical fortitude that he displayed out there. It was one of the best runs. Even though he didn't hit a buzzer, I think we joked about that earlier, still wanting to hit a buzzer. I truly believe that where many people saw his disability, I saw it as his ability because he understood what he was working with. That night, I know you had to be nervous. Thousands in attendance, millions watching all around the world. What was going through your head? Did you feel the pressure of the lights, cameras, and people watching, and then also representing for those with Parkinson's? Was that in your mind? You was like, I'm just an athlete. I'm just coming out here to beast the course.
No, it definitely was in my mind.
Okay.
And that's the thing. A lot of people don't know this out there is that stress will elevate your symptoms. So a lot of the tremoring that you see on the course is not necessarily how I am on a normal basis.
Gotcha.
When you're more stressed, you're going to be more symptomatic, which makes it even harder to run the course. But once I was given the go-ahead, it was focus. I needed to get through as far as I can. It became, again, me against me. It's not Jimmy against anybody else, anything else but myself.
Yeah.
I know that if I can get as far as I can, whatever I do, my family's going to be proud of me, and that it shows that I am fighting back.
How cool was it to have Michael J. Fox I mean, this was cool. I mean, you know, he's Michael J. Fox. And we're sitting there getting ready to come, and then boom, just pop up. You know how TV in Hollywood, they love putting surprises. Boom.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, on the big Jumbotron,
big
there
jumbo
is
screen.
Michael J. Fox, and he has a special message for Jimmy right before he runs. I was like, oh, that doesn't help add it on to the pressure. Like, Michael J. Fox gives you a direct message. I mean, you know, before DMs, that's how people used to give direct message, but that was it. You got the direct video message from him. I mean, what were you thinking?
You know, I was surprised.
Yeah.
Very honored, of course, but at the same time, not really surprised because that's how Michael is. He's engaged with the community, whether it's the Michael J. Fox Foundation or Team Fox. He's always engaged. Every year we have the Team Fox MVP dinners, and he is always there sitting in the middle of the room, and he engages with everybody. He connects with all of us. Mm-hmm. So it really wasn't a surprise that, you know, well, it's a surprise, but not a surprise that he would do such a thing. But, you know, if it was anybody else up there, he would have done the same thing.
Yeah.
You know.
Let's talk about your regimen because, you know, there is, you know, you've got to take your medicine. We've had a competitor prior to Allison Topperwine who was getting ready to run the course last year and had to step off to take medication. What's your medication like? What's your regimen? How often do you have to take it? I remember my dad used to have, and God bless my brother Kabir, who my dad is now living with him, really kind of had to get his medicine in order. My dad, you know, sometimes would skip stuff because it made his stomach hurt, and and then he started taking the doses, kept getting higher, and so he had to really get on a strict regimen. Sometimes even when the pills make you uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. What are you taking? How does it make you feel now?
So, you know, for me, like right now, my phone's probably going off. It's my wife. Okay. Take your meds. Take your meds.
Because you don't want to sometimes.
No, I forget, or I get wrapped up in things, especially when we're at an event or if we're hosting our own event, and you're so caught up with doing everything that you forget. Or in cases like marathons, I would drop them all, and then people would step on them, and I've stood there looking at crushed pills on the ground. I said, should I lick those?
That might not be sanitary.
No, it might not be sanitary, but it might still work.
Yeah, okay.
And in cases like bicycle rides, on training rides, I've reached in and grabbed my meds, and of course I drop them all. But you're going 20 miles per hour, and you keep going. So, you know, it's tough to keep you know, the medicine regimen. But right now, you know, I'm happy to say that with nutrition, maybe not super proper nutrition, for those that know me out there, I'm an ice cream snob. And those nutrition and exercise, it really helped me stabilize my on and off periods with medication. You know, and I work with my doctors, my MDS, and I work with them specifically say, I want to make my meds as efficient as possible. So we track, and I do recommend people do this at home, is that we track symptoms with activity, with timing, and then eventually over a period of time, for me it was about 6 months, you get a nice, you chart everything out, and you get a nice graph of when your on and off periods are.
Right.
And then you're...
And what are those on and off periods? Some out there may not know, that are watching us live, may not understand what the on and off periods, because the off periods can be really, really down.
Yeah, off periods are essentially when you're running without the aid of medication.
And how do you feel?
You know, for me personally, it's different for everybody with Parkinson's, unfortunately. But for me, it's the tremors are elevated, and I seize up.
Yeah, you're frozen. Like my dad would get frozen.
It's and really is dyskinesia.
Dyskinesia. Yep.
Yeah.
And that's the little the back and forth.
I'm sorry. Dyskinesia is the side effect of medication.
Okay. Okay.
Dystonia is. I'm sorry. Dystonia
okay.
is where you're just like essentially like cramping up.
Okay.
And it's certain parts of your body. It's not, for me, it's not the entire body. It's mostly on my left side, on my right side.
Okay. All right.
And be very stiff, move very slowly, and that's my off period. Speech becomes slurred, and becomes hard for people to understand me, and I struggle for words. And these are the things that people don't see in Parkinson's, is the cognitive issues that we have to deal with as well. But once I'm on medication, everything is working a little bit better. So that's, we're able to plot sort of the best regimen for me, and that's what I keep. And I'm happy to say that for the last 3 years, because of all the exercise, my UPDRS score has not increased, and I've actually dialed back on my meds.
Wow.
So, again, everybody's different, but for me, I can't stress the importance of exercise.
Yeah, you kind of mentioned it, talking about the cognitive issues. Is there something else, or is there one other thing that you would want people out there to know what it's like living with Parkinson's disease?
Yeah, you're 2 or 3 different people. Not schizophrenia, type of 2 or 3 different people, but you. And my kids expressed it the best, where Karina will play with me and just like, oh, it's happy daddy today.
Yeah.
Right? And then Mason will come up and he wants to do something, and I said, Daddy can't do it. And it could just be a flip of a dime that it happens that quickly.
Yeah.
So it's not just the physical aspect of it, but it's also the mental part of it. Sometimes you're just drained mentally. You can't think. You can't remember, you can't get words out. And it's really frustrating to talk to my kids sometimes when I'm trying to explain something, but I can't get the words out and they don't understand what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. We've had several questions about diet. You're talking about your ice cream thing, you being an ice cream snob. But when it comes to your diet, and your diet comes in place, when you're balancing training and medication, how has that been for you?
It's tough. For me, I crave sugar, there's.
How do you know when you had enough? You told me you can't taste. How do you know? Or you just use that as an excuse to get all
maybe
that you can?
Don't tell my wife. Yeah, honey, you're not seeing. You didn't hear that.
Yeah.
But no, it's so sugar triggers dopamine release in the brain, and I think that's one of the reasons why I keep going for it. Because I think it's helping me.
And does it matter what kind of sugar? Can you get the sugar from fruit? Can you get it from, or do you need that processed
You
stuff?
can get it from fruit, I believe. I'm not a scientist. I don't want to be misquoted.
Okay.
But ice cream is just so tasty. Right? I mean,
Right.
And a local ice cream vendor support. They sponsor my event. So
Okay.
Why not?
Yeah. You've got all the ammo for ice cream, don't you?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. But as far as training is concerned, of course I try to limit all of the processed and the negative things. But the medication that I take is Cinemet, which many people are familiar with. The absorption of that is delayed when you take a lot of protein. So one of the things that I do now is I take my meds.
Before you take your protein.
Before I take my protein. And then I wait about 30 to 45 minutes. Okay. So absorption can start before I eat. And I have to eat protein. I'm trying to build muscle. I got to hit the wall. I got to hit the button next year,
Yeah, okay. I like that you're going for that buzzer and that warped wall. For those like myself who have family members that have Parkinson's, to those out there watching, is there something that people should know what to do and what not to do for those who they know that are struggling with Parkinson's disease? Because it was hard to kind of understand. Like, you want to push. I know for me personally, especially with being a former NFL guy, and hey, you got to push past whatever. You got an injury, you got to push past it. And there are times that I know that feeling-wise that I felt like I should be pushing my dad more. Like, you got to come on, you got to do it, and not really understanding the frustration of what he was going through.
So from personal experience, my wife does it best. She lets me do everything that I say I want to do or I'm trying to do, and she lets me fail, right? Because how do I really know I can't do it if I don't try? Mm. And then if I fail at it a couple of times, then she'll step in and say, hey, do you need a hand? So I think that's really the best way to handle your
giving them their space,
respecting space.
Yeah.
Let people with Parkinson's try, because deep down inside, we still think we can do things, right? And you can. You just have to find a different way of doing it. And I think if it's very much like Ninja Warrior training, obstacle course training. When you fail the first time, you don't just give up.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe your technique is off. Let's try something different. So find different ways of doing things that you like.
All right, so Clavita asked, and that last question too, by the way, was by Crystal, but Clavita asked, she says, it's clear exercise can help improve motor symptoms. Do you think exercise can help with non-motor symptoms like depression, anxiety, and apathy?
So I'm no scientist, I'm gonna start with that. But again, speaking from personal experience, I do believe so. I was in the state 6 years ago, after the first 8 years, there is depression there. And once I started improving myself through exercise, you become more confident. Others around you see that you're more confident. And ultimately that builds more support, not only just from the people around you, but within yourself. And it's gonna lift your spirits. And then as you realize that, you know what, it's not over. I can do more, I can do more, I can do more. Mentally, it's very important.
Yeah, strong. Rebecca, she asked, what is the one thing you wish people with Parkinson's, living with Parkinson's, knew about people living with Parkinson's? There's something, you've talked about it already with the questions, but is there maybe an inside thing, like maybe something deep down inside that maybe you might be a little embarrassed to discuss?
I mean, I'm not, as people know, I'm very open.
Okay.
Okay, and just a quick sidebar is that the more open you are, I think the more easier it is for you to build that inner circle of trust. And
transparency is key.
Transparency is key. So because people need to know what you're dealing with, right? If people ask me, hey, Jimmy, how are you feeling today? I'm going to tell you how I'm feeling, right? Even maybe you don't want to hear it, but I'm going to tell it to you. So if you really want to ask me, you ask me. But there are things that you don't really want to talk about. Constipation. Who wants to talk about constipation, right? And here I am,
My dad would talk to you about constipation. He'll pick up the phone and say, "I'm not feeling good today. I'm constipated."
It's been a couple of days, but here I am on Facebook Live. I'm telling everybody about constipation.
Constipation,
there
everybody.
You go.
Okay? It's normal. Don't act like you guys never had constipation.
But anything inside your body that is a muscle, okay, can potentially slow down. Your tongue, your intestines, your heart, unfortunately, right?
Oh, wow.
So again, not a scientist.
Right.
But
no, but that's a good point.
Many people with Parkinson's have low blood pressure, right? Well, why is that? And some of it is medicine side effects, but with the low blood pressure, if you think about it, if your heart is weak, you have no blood pressure. Again, not a scientist, that's my own theory.
Right.
And anything that's a muscle, right? I get this inner ear tremor that only I can hear. So it's just fluttering all day long. I mean, just imagine walking around the streets and all you hear is blah, 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 in your ear. Things people don't see. So if you understand that things like that are happening, it's a lot easier to understand what a person with Parkinson's is going through at a particular moment. Okay, so maybe he or she is not up to something because something internal is happening. And it's not all about, the tremors is, by the time you even see tremors, 60 to 80% of your dopamine production is already gone.
Whoa, so when you stepped on that course, 60 to 80% of your dopamine was already gone.
It was already gone. Compared to another
next person.
Compared to another 41-year-old person, an average 41-year-old person.
I'll tell you, I'm still moved and I still think back. There are certain events in your life that you'll always remember. I remember 1996 in Atlanta. I remember Muhammad Ali holding up the torch and he's shaking. And I mean, you could just see it. I mean, to me, that was probably one of the biggest signs of strength because here he is in front of this large audience, in front of a world stage, and he's shaking like that. And I remember you talking about your right side. You're lifting up, and I'm trying not to get teary-eyed here, but you're sitting there and you're reaching out for the next obstacle and you start to shake. And I'm just going, wow. And then just hearing and understanding all the stuff that you're going through on the inside that people can't physically see. They see the tremors and think maybe Parkinson's is just tremoring. Maybe that's just what it is.
Yeah.
But there's stuff going in your head, and there's the 60 to 80% dopamine level, and just competing with that and not using that as an excuse not to compete. It made me ask myself the internal question, what's my excuse? and I can't have one because you, Jimmy Choi, you absolutely, you know, you not only inspired me, you inspired my father, who's watching. My dad doesn't have Facebook Live, so I know for sure he's not watching this. What is this Facebook thing you guys are talking about? So I'll have to show him on my phone. Like, oh, that is cool. How did you get it on your phone? But in case he is, by some reason, somebody's put a phone, my dad would tell you for sure that you inspired him as well. And so I do appreciate you just standing out there and wanting to still get that buzzer. I'm telling you, you're gonna get that $1 million. No. You're gonna get that $1 million.
And I'm saying this out right now. If that happens,
Okay.
it's coming right to this foundation.
My man, my man, my man, my man. Yeah.
How incredible. Akbar, Jimmy, thank you guys so much for being here. To our entire Facebook community, thanks for tuning in. And if you are looking for more resources on how to live well with Parkinson's and how you can exercise, please visit our Fox Feet blog, visit michaeljfox.org. And if you would like to be a Team Fox warrior like Jimmy and like thousands around the globe, visit teamfox.org. Thank you.